Welcome to the Starfighter Podcast.
All right, welcome back to the Starfighter Podcast. It's your co-host for the show, Dom and Ethan, and we're here to discuss the new Star Wars The Bad Batch series. Really excited about it, but first, my new co-pilot, Ethan. How you doing, man?
Doing great, man. Can't wait to get into this thing.
I know. I feel like we've been waiting for the show for a while. It also
Yeah.
got pushed back a little bit too, so that was a bummer. But it's finally here, and I think we both have a lot of positive things to say. So we're going to be doing a heavy spoiler breakdown. Before we get started, if you're not already, please consider subscribing to our channel. Ring that bell so you get all the notifications. And we have a lot of new content, new shows coming your way. Some pretty cool ideas that we're working on right now. So stay tuned for all of that. You can also continue to support us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever podcasts can be heard. And of course, tell your friends about us. And let's build a community where we can nerd out and just have some great conversations, have a lot of fun together.
Yeah.
All right, let's get started. Bad Batch episode 1, Aftermath. Let's talk about it. Why don't we start out with our initial thoughts about the episode?
I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like even the animation in this felt better than the last episodes that we saw for the whole Mandalore, Siege of Mandalore and all that. I felt like it was even better in some aspects in this, which I really enjoyed. I think it's interesting where it took place. I think we're all expecting it to kind of go into Order 66 slowly, but it kind of just hits it instantly, and I thought that's really nice. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff in this episode, and it gets me really excited for stuff to come. Plus, it was an hour and 15 minutes or something like that, which was a lot, and I think it did a really good job. I definitely think it was kind of needed to set everything up. So yeah, I was super satisfied with this episode. I love Clone Wars, so this feels like a great continuation of it all. And I think they kind of worked out some of the kinks that we had with Bad Batch. And I think each of their personalities kind of work a bit better right now in this episode. And it's kind of nice to see that how they just tweaked it a bit. So
Yeah, absolutely agree. Definitely what stood out to me from the very beginning is this animation, like you said. Um, I feel like it was pretty on par with the last season of Clone Wars. They bumped everything up a few notches with that last season and season 7 of Clone Wars, and then with this, I feel like it's pretty much on par. But yeah, you could be right, and it could be even higher quality again for the Bad Batch. But yeah, that it really draws you in from the start, and then the only other thing that has ever done that to me, like really made an impression when it comes to animation, is the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, where
yeah,
the
yeah,
animation was just like so captivating,
hmm
um and just felt like, I mean, it feels like a movie. And just everything cinematically feels like an incredible animated movie.
yeah,
So yeah, really looking forward to more episodes. And it's great because we get, Friday we get episode 2.
yeah. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, and of course we'll be doing a review on that. But more initial thoughts from me. Yeah, I think they did really good at also making us care more about the characters, about all of them. And then we'll talk more about some people that were reintroduced to, and some ideas and directions that they took. I think I'm pretty much on board with everything, and just like really curious to see where it goes. But yeah, I really really liked this first episode, so I think
hmm
we can get into our breakdown.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we've got this opening scene where they're on the planet Kalar, and we've got this fight scene. We are introduced to, I think this is the first time that we're seeing her. It's Master Depa Balaba. Yes.
Yep. You got it. You got it.
And her apprentice, Caleb Dune. And so, I mean, people have heard us both talk about this before. So quick little rant, but I mean, we've talked about this before. Don't sleep on the Bad Batch on this series. Don't sleep on Clone Wars or Rebels. Like, this is episode 1. They're already tying into, other shows.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get into that more here, but um, you know, Caleb Dune we know him as Kanan Jarrus in the Rebel series, but throughout this series, and again, we'll talk even more about this in depth later on, but just because of the timeline, with Bad Batch, we're already tying into Attack of the Clones, and we're tying into Revenge of the Sith. Um, we've got characters that we're seeing in The Mandalorian as well. So, I mean, we're tying into all sorts of, shows and movies, and it's all connecting. So, I've said it before, but if you're a huge Star Wars fan, like, the payoff with watching these animated series is really high, and you're going to find a lot of enjoyment and just like some really cool detail that they're telling us about, and good backstory. But anyways, getting back to this intro on Kalar, this fight scene with the Master, with Caleb Dune, we immediately start to make these connections again to Kanan Jarrus and Rebels. But what were your thoughts on seeing, a young version of him here?
I think it was funny because the voice was like still pretty much the same, but like a little bit less. So like you could tell that it was like definitely him in case people had like forgotten a bit, like it was still noticeable.
Yeah, was it
Um,
Freddie Prince Jr.?
oh, it had to have been. It had to have been.
It did sound a lot like him.
Yeah, it sounded very similar. Yeah, I thought it was funny seeing him and kind of just the banter they're having about how it's just the Bad Batch like showing up to reinforce. Um, yeah, I thought it was funny kind of seeing all that and at first going into this, I was like, "Oh, is he going to be like a thing in the show then? Like, is he going to be like showing up for a bit more of it?" You know. But yeah, we can kind of go into how that goes down a bit more. But yeah, I thought it was nice seeing him and his master. We hadn't really seen that yet. But I think it was funny how she was just like willing to let him like run along and do his thing, like not even gonna, hold him back. But yeah, I thought it was a really interesting scene, and there were some really cool clone troopers in the background too that I have no clue. It's hard to tell what like battalion they are, but they actually looked really
Yeah,
cool. I thought it was really cool seeing all that, and I thought the fight that Bad Batch had like right after was really good and kind of just goes into those episodes that we saw in season 7 again, like the same kind of dynamic. Um, yeah, I thought it was a really good, really strong opening to the show.
definitely. Yeah, and you mentioned that battalion. Um, yeah, really cool. Obviously, I mean, green's my favorite color, so seeing some really cool green. They look like ARC troopers, but yeah,
Yeah, I have no
really
clue.
awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, they looked sick. I always love clone trooper designs more than anything, honestly. Um, just seeing what stuff they come up with because it's endless.
I know, and when we get to the speech later on with the Emperor, I don't know if you took notice at all, like the different kinds of troopers, but I was looking at like their different designs too.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah,
Yeah, I have to go back through that. I love that stuff. I think it's a great way to show just their the designs that they have and all that, like just in the back. It's really cool.
yeah, definitely. They get the Order 66 call from Palpatine, and so you know Caleb has this encounter with Hunter and Crosshair. Hunter is kind of taken back by all of it. Um, and we're getting some mixed feelings from Crosshair because things are starting to get shaky, and we're immediately starting to question Crosshair's mental state because Hunter and Crosshair, they're totally not on the same page, right? And Hunter's trying to reason with them. Well, Crosshair is kind of like trying to like he takes a shot at him too, and like they're just not on the same page.
Yeah.
But what were your thoughts here?
I thought it was funny because it's kind of hard to read Crosshair just because like the attitude he was having leading up to him taking shots at Caleb was like it kind of went with his character, you know, like it wasn't too off of it, like just being really silent and all that. Um, but yeah, you can definitely tell that he definitely got the order to some extent. And I also thought it was more confusing too, and you kind of get a sense for the character. But like even when they were fighting, he was like sir, yes sir, like super like commander, like going after like orders and all that. Like you definitely get a sense for his character, and that's how he operates. Um, and so kind of going from that into Order 66, he was like secretly like it kind of like he was staying low key about it, but he was still trying to get the shots off. And yeah, I definitely thought that was a very big change in pace that I don't think most people were expecting. Um, but yeah, it's just hard to read that character like all the time, I feel. So I'm sure we'll see more of
Yeah.
that.
I mean, what were you kind of like feeling when, things, you could feel like this tension, and it felt like a lot of anxiety too. And I feel like it speaks from Caleb. I feel like it speaks to his relationship with his master when he's starting to feel like he's pushed in a corner, but really he's like, getting close to the edge of the cliff. And, and even before that, again, this interaction with Hunter and Crosshair, he's feeling like he might have to fight them or run away. But what do you think about all this?
Well, I was trying to remember the fact that he had literally just seen his master get gunned down by like every clone there. Um, so I think going into that, yeah, there was a lot of like tension building up, and I think just stress on his part where he wasn't really sure what was going on. And I think Hunter was very honest about how he had no clue what was going on either. Um, and so I think him trying to convey that while at the same time you have Crosshair trying to gun him down was an interesting thing to do. And I definitely think Caleb knew like there was something like you could sense like there was some good coming from him, but he had just had to beat down Crosshair um, until he would stop shooting at him. Um, so yeah, I thought that was interesting. Just play, and I think it adds more to the character in general, just how much confusion there was in Order 66, because especially as a Padawan, like you wouldn't be thinking of that. So I thought that was an interesting play on things because we haven't really seen a clone that was like hesitant with Order 66 yet, and just as confused as even the Jedi, like being affected by it. So I thought that was really cool interaction, and then you go from that to Crosshair questioning if Hunter even took him out in the first place. And you have
Yeah.
Hunter saying that, yeah, I stunned him when he jumped over the gap. And there's some questioning and stuff. And that kind of plays a big part in the rest of this episode as to the fact that he didn't shoot at Caleb at all.
Right. And I feel like it was a really interesting choice that they made, going, a little bit before Order 66 and showing us this um, with the Master and with Caleb, because I think a lot of us were under the impression that we were just going to go straight into like post Order 66, but for
Yeah.
them to rewind just a little bit, and I think that was really cool, how everything played out, and it set the tone for everything perfectly.
Hmm.
We got that call back to Caleb, but it really set the tone because it shows us, going forward, really the perspective, and seeing everything from the eyes of the Bad Batch and how they're taking everything in, and thinking about everything, processing everything that's going on around them, and just like the confusion that they have. So yeah, I thought that it was really great choice that they made there.
Yeah.
But moving on, they return to Camino. They realize that the war has come to an end, the Clone Wars, and Tech. He deducts that the regs, so the regular troopers, have been programmed to carry out Order 66. They aren't under, so the Bad Batch aren't under the same um, effects because of their mutations.
Yeah.
And we get to see the point of view from the Kaminoans, and that council meeting. We see Palpatine and giving this speech, the same speech from Revenge of the Sith, and it felt like they just took the audio from
It's the exact same scene.
yeah.
Yeah, it's the exact same scene. Which I thought was cool to see. But yeah, it's the exact same scene through and through, but just through their eyes. So I thought it was funny just seeing how they're kind of just reacting to it. And Wrecker's like, "Yeah, you did get messed up." He's like, "You didn't say that again." Um, but yeah, it was. I thought it was a really cool scene, and just seeing how the other clones were reacting to it. Like it wasn't like Order 66 happened and it was over. Like they were still like being kind of like programmed in a way to just follow along with it and not really question anything that was going on.
Yeah, and I want to get your opinion. Like, do you think that it's important for us to see, these callbacks from Revenge of the Sith, and especially stuff dealing with the Emperor? And if so, why would that be something that's important for this show?
I think seeing how it ties up with stuff like movies, it's probably not completely necessary, but I think it just adds more validity to the story and the stuff going on. Like you kind of have a sense of where things are going, especially when we have what happened at the end of season 7 in Clone Wars. I think it just adds more depth to everything that's going on, and you can kind of be like at the beginning of the episode, Tech was like, "Yeah, Kenobi's engaged Grievous." Like you have this constant like timeline going through the episode of different events happening. Um, and so I thought that was really cool just to see right now and get a sense for everything that's going on. But I think it just adds more to the story, and it kind of gives you a sense as to where it's going to go from here. And I think there's stuff in the original movie that I go back and I watch, and I'm like, I wonder what was happening somewhere else right now. Like, where did all the clones go right now? Like, they're just out of the picture, you know. So I thought that was interesting to see just a different point of view, because I don't think it hurts to show that at the exact same time as something going on in Revenge of the Sith, because now I can watch Revenge of the Sith and think of that exact scene that we just saw going on
Yeah,
at the same time, you know. And I think it just adds more depth to Star Wars.
I know. I'm anxious to watch like the last 4 episodes of Clone Wars now, and then Revenge of the Sith, and then Bad Batch. Um, I think it's all going to play out really well.
Yeah,
They're really just continuing to build upon the things that we really love, but we need to um, pull out like all these gems that are there still, and just like dive in deeper into the story, which is really awesome. I feel like that it's almost like they're uncovering like these mysteries, that we haven't solved just yet.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
So moving forward, we meet a new character. We meet Omega. And what were your initial thoughts on this character?
I thought it reminded me. I instantly thought of another clone, because when I think of um, Tamara Morrison, like, clone actor, like live action, I think of like a more Australian kind of deal going on, like that New Zealander accent. And I got that exact same like vibe from Omega. Like I instantly thought she was a clone of some sorts, like not just looks wise. But I thought she was a cool character. And I think it's funny that throughout this episode, usually when they introduce characters like this, like a kid that's going to be going along with the story, we find them like annoying at some point. Like remember Ahsoka, like we found them pretty annoying, like getting into the story. Um, but I thought she was a really cool character out off the start, and just like curious and actually interested in them, just because they were different, and she knows that she's different. Um, so yeah, I thought she was a cool character, and I think they actually do a really good job with her throughout this episode. And I think she'll build up to be pretty interesting. So yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, that's kind of like I was worried about the same thing. Is she gonna have like that early Ahsoka, syndrome, and uh, just kind of be, annoying and,
Yeah.
kind of take you out of things. But I didn't feel that way at all. And I was, really curious about what they were going to do with her character. I think almost right away you get the sense that um, there's something special about her, which we'll get into in depth. But um, yeah, I thought she was great, and the dynamics I think play out really well between her and Hunter, especially.
Yeah.
But you can tell that the entire group starts to care for her as well.
Hmm. For sure.
So we then have this scene in the mess hall where Omega joins them, and they're kind of trying to figure her story out a little bit. Um, and this fight breaks out. This stuff isn't really like too crucial to the story, but Echo gets knocked out, and he wakes up. He's kind of like freaking out a little bit. Well, then Tarkin wants all of them to go and do this simulation, and so throw it over to you. You want to take us into this scene a little bit?
Yeah. So Tarkin has arrived on Camino, and he's kind of here to um, test the clones in some capacity. They have a whole conversation about the usefulness of clones going forward, and with the prime minister, and they basically explain that they can have more soldiers for the same price that are recruited, um, and it will be cheaper actually for them to do recruits rather than produce these clones going forward. Um, so they begin to start testing these clones, and Tarkin instantly takes an interest in the Bad Batch, and so he throws them into a simulation. We've seen the simulation back in the Clone Wars to some extent, but this one was like maxed scale of it. So it was like max difficulty basically.
Yeah.
Um, and an important part that I wasn't really thinking of until later is they go into this thing with training weapons. Like these things are basically set to stun like
Right.
24/7. Um, so they go into it. They kind of have a normal routine, and they defeat it. Um, and they Wrecker's kind of like pestering Tarkin to like bring more on, and so Tarkin orders basically Death Troopers. Right. So are they considered Death Troopers or what? Dark
Aren't they?
Troopers. Dark Troopers.
Yeah, they look like early stages of a dark trooper,
Yeah. Like
which again, we see those in action at the finale of Mandalorian season
yeah.
2. The heads, especially the head and the eyes. Um, I mean the body to an extent too, but really when you look at the face, um, I think that's what kind of gives it away. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good like intro as to like, yeah, this is kind of the Empire now. Like it was cool to see that kind of stuff. So yeah, like really early model like Dark Troopers. They're not chromed out or anything. They're pretty basic. And but he sets it to live fire. That was all on stun before. The entire simulation was stun. But he sets it to live rounds. And so you have Wrecker kind of go down for a minute, and they're trying to get it back up, and eventually and by the way, they can't just blast the heck out of these things or snipe them or whatever, which I thought was kind of funny. Like I was trying to think about.
Because
Um,
they still don't have live rounds.
yeah, they don't have live rounds, so they they kind of reconvene after Wrecker gets injured, and they come up with a way to like hack a dark trooper, and they take out the rest, and it was a super cool scene. Um, you have Crosshair and Wrecker getting a really cool KO on one of them with like a knife shot. Super
Dude,
cool to see.
that was my favorite part. Probably my
Yeah,
favorite part of the episode. Um,
it's like, who would have thought about that?
Who throws it? Tech?
Wrecker throws it in the
Oh,
air
okay. Yeah,
because it's a big knife. It's the big knife.
Wrecker throws that knife in the air, and Crosshair shoots the knife into the Dark Trooper's head.
Yeah,
It was so
super
crazy.
cool. Super cool to see. And Tarkin kind of just leaves, like, okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. And
Such a Tarkin move, you know.
yeah, like they just
quietly
leave.
walks away.
Yeah, literally right after they walk away. So yeah, that's all done. They're kind of just ranting about how they swapped to live rounds, and Tech got injured in it too because he had a Dark Trooper like explode on him basically. And so they're all like they're beat up a bit and they're just ranting about it. And then Tarkin comes in, and he has a mission for them to go to Onderon and basically take out an insurgency that is there that he says is like a separatist insurgents. And he wants them to go and eradicate it. And the main reason for this is there was a conversation beforehand, where I keep forgetting the names of the it's the prime minister and like the science. Okay, so Lamasu and Nalase. Yeah.
Mhm.
So he had a conversation with them, basically asking about them, but he also revealed that he had questioned their ability to follow through with Order 66. He asked about it, and they're like, "Well, we assume because the Caleb wasn't there, no one saw him after." But basically, we find out that there are 5 enhanced clones. So Nase mentions that there's 5, doesn't say by name, and then also Tarkin basically admits that Crosshair had snitched out on the group that that they didn't follow through with Order 66.
Yeah.
And so that's what prompts this order to go to Onderon, basically test their loyalty to the Empire. So they go to Onderon, and what do they find there, dude? You wanna take us through that?
Yeah, so they quickly discover that they're not going up against droids, because that's the thought in the back of their mind, like, oh, must be more battle droids
It's
for us to take
separatists. It's
down.
battle
Yeah,
droids.
yeah, I think Tarkin said that they were separatists.
Yeah, he did.
So they get there, and they discover that there's humans, there's even children. It's kind of like a smaller camp, and they're kind of all like spying on them from above. And again, we see Crosshair. He's ready. He's kind of like pushing Hunter, to give the order for him to start
Yeah.
sniping them. And this kind of like is like a back and forth that we see throughout this episode. And I feel like we really see a lot of patience from Hunter, which I think that speaks to him being a good leader, which Crosshair has continued to question that he actually is a good leader, because he's constantly saying good soldiers follow orders. But whenever he says that, um, he definitely feel like it's like that mind wash type of thing, or brainwash type of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So anyways, he's saying, no, we're not gonna fight them. They're not droids, they're humans. We need to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, then he says, we're not alone. And so the soldiers, some of the soldiers surround them, the Republic fighters, and they go down there, and we see that the leader of this group is none other than Saw Gerrera, who we've seen in the Clone Wars. He first appears in the Clone Wars series, then again in both Rogue One as well as Rebels. And let's get your thoughts, Ethan. How do you feel about seeing Saw Gerrera again?
I thought it was interesting seeing this because I I think Onderon at this point is instantly tied to Saw Gerrera for me. And I think the funny thing about this character is his whole deal was they were like fighting for the Republic. Like they wanted, like they're supporting the Republic, and trying to free Onderon basically in the name of the Republic so that they could like move on with their lives. And then to see how like they kind of turned on them the second it turns into an empire, I think is very interesting to see. Um, I liked the input that he had with and the dialogue that he had with Hunter, and I think it spoke a lot to just Order 66 and just changing to an empire in general. I think that's one thing that's talked about quite a bit is like this was the Republic, and now they're just acting like a completely brand new thing, which is the Empire. Tarkin even mentions it. He's like to the Kaminoans, he's like, "You guys had a deal with the Republic, not with the Empire." I'm like, yeah, I'm like, you guys just swapped over, you know. So I think it's kind of funny seeing that dialogue and just how the outsider view of it as someone that was a Republic supporter, you know. I think it's interesting to see this view, and yeah, I think it's a great lead into the fact that there's going to be a rebellion against the Empire, and he kind of speaks about it, and how he's going to move on to working on that, and so. I thought it was a great lead into I'm sure where this character is going to go, and it reminded me of Rebels a lot. So, yeah, I thought it was great seeing him.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And another like Easter egg. I don't know if you picked up on this, but in the background there is, a clone that we see in like one of the early episodes of Clone Wars. He's a clone that left, the fight. He left the Republic and he wanted to settle down and start a family, and so he married
Yeah.
a Twi'lek, and that was a kind of a cool little callback
Oh, that's
that we see
awesome.
there. Yeah. Do you remember that episode?
Yeah, I remember. You talking about. Yeah, I definitely remember that character, and they kind of end up being there while they're fighting Grievous and all that. And yeah, I've heard a lot about him recently.
Yeah, so
That's cool.
that was interesting. But yeah, moving forward, they find out that they were being watched by this probe droid, and again we get a little bit of that back and forth between Hunter and Crosshair, kind of arguing. They don't see eye to eye. Again, we got to keep in mind that the chip is playing a factor, because it seems as though Crosshair's chip is working to an extent, but this is where we also find out that prior to this, Omega warned Hunter not to go, and she says that Tarkin kind of had it out for them. Now Hunter is kind of realizing, she was right about all of this. So Tech explains that, um, it was it Lama Su who was saying, who was talking about the 5 enhanced clones.
Yeah, yeah.
So Lama Su.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of are a little bit quick to assume that Echo is in there, but Echo is actually a regular clone.
Yeah.
He's not enhanced, so it is in fact Omega as the 5th enhanced clone. So now they're like, well, she's one of us, and we can't just leave her back there. They had a feeling there was something about her.
Yeah.
No, they're like, we got to go back and rescue her. But what do you think about this reveal? I think we kind of started to see it coming a little bit, but what do you think about this decision that they made to make her this enhanced clone? It's going to be something that they continue to push forward with, and yeah, curious to hear your thoughts.
I definitely think it was interesting getting that realized, and I think it kind of goes into what happened and later events in the episode. But I definitely thought it was interesting when Nalase said, like, yeah, there's 5 enhanced clones, because I'm like, Echo isn't one. Like, if you know the story of Echo, he wasn't enhanced. He's actually pretty messed up. So yeah, I thought it was interesting. I think it has a lot of stuff in play, but it kind of leaves us wondering like what are her enhancements? Like, um, what is it like? There's been a lot of talk like is she force sensitive, or is she kind of like a mixture of all of them or like some of them? Um, so yeah, I think it'll be interesting to discover what her enhancements are, and to what extent they are. But yeah, I thought it was really cool, and them going back for Omega, I thought was an interesting conversation that they had with Crosshair. But she had been warning Hunter. I think they felt kind of guilty, and they had to go back because she had been warning Hunter before they went on the mission that it was like it didn't. There's something not right about it, and that Tarkin like had it out for them. Um, so yeah, I thought it was interesting to see all that going on and kind of just her realization of stuff that's going to happen. I have my own theories on what her enhancements are because of some events in this, and I think her conversation with Hunter kind of shows some of it. But yeah, I thought it was really cool, and it kind of just added to her character, but also to theirs that they're willing to go back and get her as one of their own.
Yeah, do you want to save some of those things like
Yeah,
towards
yeah,
the end for
yeah,
predictions?
for
Okay.
sure, for sure.
Yeah, we'll get into more of that later. All right, so moving forward, they go back. Omega's been captured at this point. She gets caught, snooping around um, the Bad Batch's room, and so you know she's taken in custody. Well, uh, the Bad Batch, they get captured pretty much right off the bat as they arrive, thrown in the brig with her. Um, we get this power struggle again from Crosshair and Hunter. Every decision that you've been making has been the wrong one. It's got us here, and he's like, we'll discuss that later when you figure out getting out of here. Um, well, Omega, has this little moment with Crosshair, telling telling him that she knows what he's gonna do, and please don't do it. Essentially, do you feel like this was foreshadowing her potentially being force sensitive, like you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Whether it's force sensitive or some kind of future sight or something, but yeah, she acts like she has a very good idea of what he's going to do, and the events that are going to proceed. But she also mentions that, but I know it's not like your fault. Like I know that
Yeah.
like it's against your will. So I thought that was interesting, and you kind of hear Crosshair like listening to it and kind of taking it to heart. You feel, um,
Yeah, it
but
was a good scene.
yeah, I thought it was a really good scene. It just adds more validity to her character and her purpose, like in the Bad Batch. I feel, but yeah,
Yeah, part of me wanted her to be able to change his mind too. Um, but yeah, great scene. So Tarkin ends up taking Crosshair to be examined. You know, again, they confirm that the chip has been working to an extent because he's been showing loyalty, to the Empire and to Order 66 to an extent, and so it's working to a degree. Well, he wants them to max it out full capacity, so that's what they do. Um, Back at prison that they have going, um, Wrecker breaks his panel on the wall so Omega can get out and be able to get out and save them or free them from the ray shields. They can get some weapons. They head over to the what was it?
so they wanted to go find Crosshair, but
Yeah, they want to find him.
they realized that they couldn't do it without their gear, and Omega, being snooping around their room, is under the knowledge that they moved all their gear and stuff to the hangar by their ship.
Right.
So they proceed to the hangar to grab their gear with Omega, and yeah, it kind of leads us into our next big scene.
Yeah, I
Um,
feel like this is probably the climax of the episode. If you want to take us into this, give us a breakdown of this final scene
yeah,
sequence.
so they're they're getting their gear on and everything, and Omega, they're talking about how they're gonna have to go find Crosshair and basically to leave like Tech and some people to figure out the ship and everything. But then Omega's like, before the door even opens, like, we're not gonna have to go far, and so then the door opens and we kind of see Crosshair sporting kind of like Death Trooper gear, but like it's like his gear, but green visor, completely blacked out, super cool looking, more Imperial than ever. And we kind of see him having a conversation with Hunter about following orders and if he's going to. And so we kind of see Hunter being like, Crosshair's like, is that just turn yourself in, like basically give up right now? And he's like, is that an order? And then decides that he's not going to follow it. And so they end up having a fight. Crosshair gets some good shots off on Wrecker and basically gets him downed for temporarily. And so Tech's trying to start up the ship to get out, and we kind of have Omega and Hunter just trying to keep Omega safe for a bit while they're trying to figure out what to do. And they're all the while they're trying to get the ship going, but also Crosshair is trying to shut down the hangar, close it off. And we get a shot of Nalase like tampering with it so that Omega mainly can leave and get out. So we kind of see her trying to help them and keep the bay doors open. And eventually Hunter is like, they're about to make a move for the ship and everything, and they get Wrecker and all that. And Crosshair goes to just end Wrecker pretty much, and Omega hits a really good shot. Kind of going to the whole clone thing, wondering what her enhancements are, because she like nailed a shot on Crosshair's gun, and just
it was a great scene.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. And she kind of cover fired for a second while they got everyone on the ship, and then they were able to escape. But yeah, I thought it worked really well, and I don't think it's far fetched for this character to just hit a shot like that. Honestly, like usually that's where my mind would go, is like, oh yeah, that's kind of lucky, you know. But with enhancements and stuff like that and being a clone, like I'm not surprised, and I think it works really well with the character and everything going on. But yeah, I thought this was a really, really good climax to the episode, and kind of gives us some ideas about what they're going to be doing going forward, if they're going to be trying to get Crosshair back, or just stuff like that. So I thought worked out really well, and just kind of trying to see the other stuff going on. Nalase trying to get Omega out. I thought it was a cool scene. Just add some more depth to it and meaning behind just how special she really is. That she's willing to go through that. So yeah, I thought it was a really good way to wrap up this episode for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely. And then of course they take off. Really interesting. Again, we get to hear a little bit more detail and backstory into Omega's life. She's never traveled anywhere. She's only been on Camino. So, they're taking off, and of course it's a big deal for her. Exciting for her to finally travel and leave, because I think we get the impression that her being on Camino is not a very good situation either.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that they go into even more depth into that as well. And, everything that she was going through when she was on Camino. Because like you mentioned before, Nalase was really looking out for her and helping her leave and just being safe in general. So yeah, they head out and they plot a course for J19. They said that they know a guy, and they hit light speed. Who do you think they're going to be seeing?
So J19 is Seleucami system, right? We've heard it before in Clone Wars. That's the thing, is I was wondering about that clone you're talking about earlier, because I thought that was the one that they're going to be meeting up with, because it's cut is the clone's name. I think it's like LeQuain, is the clone that is on Seleucami and that they met up with in the Clone Wars, and so I feel like that's the character they're gonna find, but I also feel that in the process they're probably gonna find Rex, because we know that they're gonna find Rex at some point. But I do think they're gonna go meet up with Cut, um, at least temporarily. So yeah, I'm not too sure. I haven't. Um, I definitely think either way, Rex is gonna end up being there to some extent at some point. Um, and honestly, if Rex is there, I don't see why Ahsoka wouldn't be there, especially this early after Order 66. Like we saw them take off together, right? Um, so especially this soon after Order 66, it would be hard to imagine not seeing both of them. Um, but yeah, I think the only person I can think of in Seleucami's system would be Cut. Cut LeQuain. Who knows? Maybe they'll meet Saw Gerrera there and the rest. But I
I
think they're
know
going to
that they're
meet
gonna
Cut.
they're gonna find Saw again.
Yeah, they would have to find. I think they would find Saw again, maybe. Um, so yeah, I'm not too sure where it's going to go, but we've definitely been where they're going before in Clone Wars. So I think that's kind of cool going to a familiar place. So yeah, I'm excited for it for sure.
Yeah, me too. Did we want to, close things out with a couple more predictions? Maybe we can hear your thoughts
Yeah.
on more things about Omega and where they could be taking that character.
Um, I've heard some rumors on it being like Palpatine as like a donor, partially because of the hair,
Right.
and sometimes because of the accent. Uh, I've I don't personally like that theory too much. Like I would understand it. I wouldn't be too surprised, but I I don't think that's where they're gonna go. I definitely see more of like a clone within her. Like I think it works better, and I definitely see like more of like original Tamara Morrison like in that character, um, as like a female clone. I think that's more noticeable. I think this is how it would go. Um, so yeah. Plus we've seen blonde like clone troopers before. X was blonde, right? So it's stuff like that I think it's still going to be a clone. And powers, if I'm going to make a prediction, it's either some kind of force sensitive, although I don't think that's within their realm of like possibility for like enhanced clones. Like I don't think they've really worked with that too much. Um, but that's possible, for sure, for sure. But I think it's more so like future, like some kind of like foresight kind of deal, which it's hard to imagine that not being connected with the force, which is
Yeah.
why that's why I definitely understand there being some force sensitivity. Um, because I think everything in this episode is kind of pointing to like some sort of foresight, because she knew Crosshair was going to show up before he even did, and knew what he was going to do before he even did it. So I think that's where the character is going to go. But as to how they explain it, I have no clue. Um, so yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff with this character that is going to be really interesting, and I think it's going to work really well with this group and just make it more functional in general. And I think it'll bring out more in each of the characters. So yeah, I'm super excited to see this next episode that we get on Friday.
Yeah, me too. And of course, it's all just speculation at this point. But I mean, they're setting some stuff up in Mandalorian, and I think that some of these things could connect really well to what they're doing in Mandalorian when it comes to like Grogu's blood and cloning, and then they touch on that very, very shortly or briefly in the sequel trilogy, mainly Rise of Skywalker. Um, but I feel like a lot of these things they're trying to paint us a bigger picture and have everything kind of connect. So I could definitely see some of these things, with enhancements to clones and stuff, connecting again to Palpatine in some way, whether it's a direct clone of his or not. Still could be just the fact that they're experimenting
Yeah.
with certain things, and maybe with again with force sensitive blood, um, and also we didn't touch on it, but like in towards the beginning of the episode when the Bad Batch get to Camino, they see some of the troopers taking um, taking like a dead Jedi that's like covered up, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the Jedi's lightsaber falls out, and like where were they taking the body, like
Yeah, for sure.
where they're on Camino, and they could be potentially taking their blood as well. So yeah, I think some of these things are just really interesting and really excited to learn more.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot of stuff that they can do going forward that's already been set up, or even new stuff that would explain things that have happened. I think that's a really good sweet spot of Clone Wars, and I think they'll continue at that with the Bad Batch. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, did you have any more final thoughts?
no, I think we covered it really
Yeah,
well.
I think you covered it good too.
Yeah,
All right. Well, then I think we're gonna close out of here. This was our spoiler breakdown of Bad Batch episode 1. Like I said before, episode 2 comes out Friday, and so we should be putting out our review on episode 2 either Friday night or sometime this weekend. You can look forward to that, and again, we'll have some more episodes, like our normal Wednesday show. We do live everything nerdy. You can come back here on the channel at 6 p.m. Pacific time. We'll be doing that. Yeah, again, stay tuned for what's coming up, guys, because we have some really cool things in the works. And, again, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Ring that bell. Continue to support us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. But we will be back here soon for episode 2 and our heavy spoiler review on that. But thanks a lot, Ethan. We will be back soon, and we'll see you guys later.
see ya.